Well, game 2 on the cards. Let's get into it. Picks and bans are now here, and SoaR Gaming will be first pick this time round. SoaR Gaming got themselves a point so far. That puts them on 8. If they win this next one, that'll catapult them to 10, I believe.
Yeah, Noble are doing a good job in terms of the early game, but they need to figure out a way to transition this in the mid to late game, and this is going to be problematic for them considering they lost the last game, because now they don't really control their own fate and destiny. As long as Allegiance get 2 wins here, they guarantee themselves, also depending on how this next game goes.
Surprised by Noble there to ban away the Artemis against Vetium. They felt like it was such an issue this game that they banned that over Cabrakan, over the Chang'e that they first picked themselves last time. Very surprising to see that one go through.
It's always a good idea to take away some of the comfort picks, and Artemis is not necessarily one that's a popular meta ban, so Vetium playing it to great effects made it very difficult for Chapo to dive the backline with the board just ping-ponging all the time.
Well, Noble are going to go back to what they did last time. Terra and Chang'e one more time. If they can get that for themselves, they'd be very happy. Sorry, not Terra. They didn't get Terra last game. It was fineokay. But they will take the Chang'e and the Terra away from fineokay. Jigz looks like he will default back to that Fafnir, however.
It's always a great idea also to not only ban comfort picks, but to take away some of the comfort picks that were played in the last game. And fineokay did a great job. Once he started rotating into these team fights, he dove the backline, rooted some players out of position, went back into the safety of his own teammates, and that made it very difficult for Noble to really help out any aggression that was being dealt onto SoaR.
There's a lot of survivability on the side of Noble Esports right now with those 3 picks locked in. Sustain, revives, as well as escape potential from all 3. Not too bad. I mean, Khepri's a little bit on the slack side when it comes to escape, but he will help his teammates escape. Thanatos banned out, which is wise here, especially because it looks like SoaR want to run that Cabrakan jungle to me, if that's the case.
Absolutely. The great sustain options from Noble, the longer these team fights last, the more favorable it will be for Noble. This is why SoaR is trying to counter that with some more burst potential on their side. Going for this Scylla is going to have a lot of damage as the levels progress, not to mention Cabrakan in that mid game, especially if you get Stone of Binding, trying to increase penetration for their teammates. That's going to increase all the burst as well.
I feel this Guan new pick was kind of forced the hand of SoaR here because they needed some sort of sustain to answer back some of the sustain that Noble are going to have here, especially with the Cupid locked in now. That's 3 people that can heal on the side of Noble. They needed something here, not just the cool ways from Fafnir.
Where's the Odin for SoaR instead of Guan Yu? Why not just Odin? Because like you could find burst potential. You don't necessarily need the sustain. If you lock in even like the first 4 guys that were locked in by Noble, all can't necessarily get out of that cage, would have to rely on to getting a Phantom just to be able to do so. I feel like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity from SoaR, because there's also anti-healing in the form of Chang'e and the Serqet now to deal with that Guan Yu.
Same time is though, how comfortable is fineokay in the Pro League on Odin? That's probably the question here, because otherwise you're going to have to put Odin jungle.
But how difficult is Odin? You press 2, you press 1, you clear the wave, you just wait to rotate to team fights, and all you have to do is just cage the opposition.
Any opposition there. Apart from the Serqet, you could have caged any one of them, but enough talk about Odin anyway. He's not going to be in this game. It's going to be the Guan Yu for fineokay here. So that matchup up against Terra. It's up to Terra to kind of use the walls to cancel out the Telo Assault here, Toby.
That's the goal, but I don't think fineokay is necessarily worried about that, because if invested into the stun, if Uzzy invests into the stun just to stop the Telo Assault, he can't really dash through the wall right off the bat. He's going to have to use the monolith dash to be able to clear the wave. So it's always a good idea to think about ways that you can succeed in your matchup as well as countering the opposition.
Now keep an eye on where SoaR go this time, because Jigz is now in the in the solo lane, I should say. And at the same time, Homiefe is going to start mid on the Cabrakan. Obviously, Cabrakan at the start of the game with Tremors and the Vanguard. Very, very useful here, totally for wave clear.
With the passive giving him damage reduction, it makes it very difficult, and that Mark of the Vanguard is going to absorb so much damage from the minions. When you use that Tremors, you're going to have minion aggro if you do connect onto the enemy god. But Chapo, he doesn't care about going to any lane. Instead, he's going straight for that speed buff.
I like this call, actually, on the right-hand side, because nobody knows where Chapo is right now, because they're like, well, he's not in mid, he's not in duo. Is he on the left-hand side? Is he helping Wowy? So is he on the left-hand side helping Wowy and Wubbn, maybe ganking? Instead, you're going to see left-hand side Vetium was soloing his purple to the best of his ability, but he can't get the whole thing. The speed already been taken, but SoaR are going to strip the whole jungle on the right-hand side of Noble.
But Chapo, he gets solo farm on the speed and the blue, so all this rotation on the side of SoaR, they split the experience evenly between the red and the blue, and Chapo should be able to hit level 5 before Homiefe, and that could be one power play for Noble to start things off.
Especially if he can get these elementals before the rotation comes out of SoaR here from the right-hand side, and he will be able to take these down before Jigz can even show his face around this corner as well. Back to safety is Chapo. A couple of minions in mid will help him hit level 3.
I like this play from Noble, investing just the invade from Chapo, because the fact that they're able to invade on the left-hand side, the number the number disadvantage for Noble on the right gives them an advantage on the
only
left.
level 2, and Stealth's in a lot of trouble in mid now. The Aegis has already been burnt. The Tremors are coming into play from Homiefe, and he's going to try and get in range for the Enhance to bring it down for the Crush, and he'll do just that. First blood, the way of SoaR Gaming.
Chapo can block the in-hands all he wants, but he can't block that Crush. Great play from SoaR, and I was really surprised the fact that Stealth was that far extended in the lane. He was doing a good job by himself in a 1v2, making sure that the wave entered the tower and was being very cautious and safe in positioning. But look at this, Chapo with a blink of his own.
But he gets stunned immediately by Homiefe. Lots of pressure onto andinster. The heart bomb from Wowy's good enough. 1 for 1 now is the scoreline as the Harpies, the Oracle, sorry, still only one of them standing. We'll find out which way this goes after this one goes down for sure. The left elementals gonna go the way of SoaR there as well, but the Oracles are split.
Both mid laners have fallen out, but this is gonna favor MLC Stealth a little bit because of the fact that this mid wave now is gonna, I thought that Stealth was gonna push it out quicker rather, but he didn't. So now the revival of andinster is still gonna be able to find every single mid in here. So he's not gonna fall too far behind off of the death, because normally the second death is more important than the first one, despite the gold bounty.
Well, not just that, but andinster getting that first blood will catapult his build an extra 400 gold more, which is something you don't really want to do, especially against someone like a hypercarry like Scylla. Let her invest in items early means she could go for a Doom Mob quicker if she wanted to, and get those power spikes online a little bit faster.
andinster is going to be the key to SoaR in terms of the burst damage potential, making sure that the team fights don't last too long, taking advantage of this sustain. You have Wowy and you have Uzzy having the sustain. Obviously, Stealth has some as well, and Wubbn's Rising Dawn mitigating a lot of damage. SoaR needs to find the burst potential, locking down one member and then taking them out of the fight.
That first blood is just always so important to me, especially when Noble got off to a much better start than SoaR, I feel, in terms of jungle invades and jungle pressure across the map. They had a gold lead, but because SoaR got that first blood, it just evened things up.
And something we haven't really talked about or mentioned is the dueling. Wowy has hit level 5 before Vetium because of the double invades between the purple and the red buff. It was a 2-on-1 on that duel lane in favor of Noble. And with the 2 people in mid and 2 people from SoaR, they split the speed and the blue on the side of Noble, and with that experience disadvantage on the side of Noble on the solo lane, they get that advantage back in the duo.
So people from the right side going to go the way of Chapo. Wowy is looking to steal away the purple buff again on his own. He did get the second kill of this game though, with that Cupid heart bomb onto early on andinster, who didn't manage to survive after escaping, but Vetium's going to find out his purple has been done. Well, a bit rude there, just leaving that one creep. That's a bit BM.
That's what you really want to do, because the buff camp doesn't respawn until all 3 minions have been completed, and then the 3-minute clock will be implemented. Wowy already a 2-level advantage because of all those invades. Still has a red buff of his own. Could potentially look to zone away the opposition.
Jigz in a bit of trouble here. Gonna ham and force to ult. That's the last of his mana used there as well, though. Has meditation available. He's going to have to use that to get away. A monster from andinster was good, but Jigz took a little bit too long to escape there, looking to set up andinster, and because of that, he's fallen down. Stealth is in a bit of trouble here. The heal is coming out from Wubbn to make sure he stays up with that meditation. Otherwise, he would have fallen too.
A lot of ultimates expended. 4 for 4. Vetium making a nice little rotation, but because of that rotation, Wowy pushed a wave under the tower. Vetium lost all that experience, and this Cupid is still getting further and further ahead.
And he's gone for the full boots here as well, Wowy on the Cupid. Didn't go for the Transcendent straight away. Looks like he probably will go for that as the next item. Sometimes you can see different builds coming out from Cupids as well. You can see Ninja Tabby boots or Warrior Tabby if you want the power spike, or you want the extra attack speed, which allow you to proc your passive more.
There's nothing really an advantage or disadvantage for going boots, because not only can you play offensively by chasing down the opposition that might not have boots, you're not going to be putting yourself at a disadvantage to escape from any sort of gank potential, having that mobility. Whereas going for Transcendence is more of like a power spike play where you're trying to get a lot of physical power online and look for the ability damage inside the lane, or if you have a global pressure. A lot of Neefs will elect to go for that kind of style, making sure that their World Weavers will be as impactful as early on.
Well, how this game stands right now, Noble is still sat at 5 points after losing that game against SoaR in Game 1. Game 2, couldn't see them reach 6, which wouldn't really change the standings at all. Overall, they'll still be sat third from bottom, I should say, in the league at 6th position. So, though, they could catapult themselves above Memory of Gabe if they do manage to 2-0 this.
Definitely need to find at least one more win here for Noble, having one extra point than Team Allegiance. They do have a split record from Noble versus Team Allegiance, so depending on how this game goes for Noble, and as well as the Allegiance game later on, is going to matter as to the tiebreaker scenario.
That's a good point. We'll see if that ends up happening. 3 members of each team in mid lane here. Stealth though with a straight waxing moon on Andy, and he's got no clue what's going on. He's in a lot of trouble. The tick damage coming out from Chapo as well. Nicely executed, and that's what we saw in game 1 with that Chang'e that didn't come to fruition, was when Noble capitalized on the engagement.
Not having purification beads is andinster. Great pick off from Noble, taking advantage of the mid laner, and with that one pick, they're immediately going to the goal. Fury Homiefe is here, has a lot of burst potential with that Cabrakan, but it's 4-on-3.
Chapo goes for Jigz straight on the backline. Jigz is already dead. Nice fields of love as well to pin Homiefe and place on Homies, the next casualty potentially of war. fineokay turns up, but he's not good enough to keep his teammate alive. Wowy to the sky, sorry, Vetium to the sky here, looking to clean up Chapo, waiting for the ult to end, but he finds the shot. Not today. fineokay will find himself a trip back to the fountain any second now, unless andinster has anything to say about it. I'm a monster and Wowy. Meanwhile, Vetium getting body blocked.
It's only level 8 Scylla, not doing that much damage with I'm a monster. Finding these multiple kills is Noble. Great bait by them. Also having the rotation from Uzzy a little bit faster than fineokay makes the scales be tilted into Noble's favor. Great little dash from Wowy, preventing the crush.
andinster, yeah, but that dash did force the reset out of Noble trying to do that gold fury, meaning that SoaR keep themselves in this game with only 2,000 gold, just like under 2,000 gold differential now, not having to worry about losing that gold fury as well.
It's also the experience that they get from winning the team fight, from getting the more waves, the more minions from the waves under the tower. Vetium yet again ignoring a wave on the left-hand side, trying to split this red buff here. We're seeing a lot of differentials in levels, specifically out of this dual lane here. Now hitting level 9 is MLC Stealth.
Yeah, but Cupid at the same time in the duo lane, level 10 right now on this Cupid. Still not great Transcendence online yet, but it could be a big problem because the Fields of Love causes a lot of problems in team fights, totally.
The cripple is going to be very detrimental in terms of andinster and Vetium to disengage there. Not having those two options can force the purification beads early in team fights, which will allow Elchapo to dive that backline. And this is something he really likes to do, considering he went for Blink at level 1.
Oracles have spawned here, both hunters, the first to the point on the left-hand side, but Chapo and the team of Noble have grouped up as 4. fineokay being focused on the right, though, at the same time. So not fineokay, Uzzy being focused. Uzzy's in a lot of trouble here. I'm a monster. Will hit him. The revive not up from Wubbn just yet to give him to keep him alive. Forcing out andinster in response, though, so solo laner will survive, but the mid laner, different story. Chapo picks up 2. Vetium forced to snipe to the sky, getting some pressure onto Wowy, but it's not enough.
2 for 1. Noble yet again taking these engagements in their favor because the fact that fineokay's teleport was not on the line. It was a 5-on-4 that whole time around. fineokay does get 500 gold for his team, but Noble, they're going to respond with a gold fury at the 9-minute mark.
Uzzy lived so long there, Tully. I don't know how he survived for that much time. If they would have been, it was so close. It was like less than 100 HP, I want to say, but he still survived long enough to buy them enough time for Noble to win that team fight.
The burst damage is just not online quite yet for andinster. It's only level 2 ultimate coming out of him. He's only level 9 on the Scylla, so it's not that much to write home about. Jigz is going to get pulled a little bit. A lot of damage, though, being dealt.
Jigz no ult to get away from this. I don't know if underhanded tactics available. Stealth diving in a little bit deep there, but andinster showing presence will force back Noble, and Jigz will be able to return to base in safety.
Force the meditation out of him, and that's a 120-second cooldown that Noble can look to take advantage of later on once some of their own relics come available, because Chapo's Blink will be available in 50 seconds, and without that meditation, it's going to be a little bit easier for Noble to force the issue.
Chapo's had a very solid game this time on Serqet. He's not really done much, but at the same time, he's done a lot because he's got a hell of a lot of kills. He's been involved in every single one that Noble have had for themselves, and he's going in at the right times, totally. Normally, you see the assassin like a Serqet engage the fights. He's actually letting his team do it for him.
Absolutely. He's been a part of every single kill from Noble, and with that 100% kill participation, has so much experience over Homiefe that he's 2 levels ahead. And Homiefe, as a result, is struggling a little bit to finish off his second item. I think this is more than likely going to be the Stone of Buying. It's a very cost-effective item for him, just to be able to allow the rest of his teammates to get more penetration once he finds any sort of hard CC.
Well, the way these Teamfights are going right now. Noble should be very excited about maybe looking at the Portal Demon now. The Gold Fury being down means that's where the attention will turn to. Jigz is on Zone G around these right elementals, sorry, right harpies, I should say, just to get them for themselves. But I think we could see Noble look for the Portal Demon if they get an opportunity here, Tolly.
Purification needs are down from andinster, as well as the meditation from Jigz. Those are two very important relics that SoaR will not have available. Noble could potentially look to take advantage of it, like you mentioned, especially now that Chapo has his blink online. We see the right-hand side grouping up around the Portal Demon. Maybe you could look for a gank potentially onto fineokay. And there hasn't been that much action in the soul lane because of how much pressure Wowy was doing onto Vetium between invading the buffs and always looking for the Gold Furies.
The only good news for SoaR on that right-hand side of the map is the fact that Tier 1 tower has fallen, so that's a small window for them. Homiefe trying to get towards his speed here, but Chapo wrapping around the back, looking towards Jigz and Homiefe. Homiefe stuns him out, but Homiefe is more damage than he wants to on that Cabrakan. Over the wall, andinster goes back to safety after the ult from Chapo comes out. Nice abduct onto Jigz. Jigz is going to be able to leap away back to safety, but being chased down by Chapo.
Nice route, though, from Wubbn. Not having the ultimate is Chapo to be able to get out. And Vetium's doing a lot of damage with the astral arrows. The ultimate from the Khepri reviving him.
Straight down, and he gets one. Could look for a second here if he gets an opportunity. To the sky, though, goes Vetium. Forced to ult defensively to buy him a moment's notice. Great damage there onto stealth to force him out. So fineokay going to recall back to base. The engagement is only a 2-for-1, but it will result in Noble stealing away the speed and potentially starting the Portal Demon.
Absolutely, taking away another objective on the form of SoaR. They're struggling a little bit to get the gold and the experience, and between the sustain of the monolith as well as stealth's third ability, this is very easy for Noble to regroup without having to back to base to get all these objectives for themselves.
And they will get this Portal Demon for free. fineokay showed his face, doesn't have his ultimate available, saw 4 members of Noble there and thought better of it. Instead, he'll pick up some farm on the right-hand side. He's got to be careful, though, because Chapo's wrapping around again.
Chapo is not done yet. The blink into the taunt, into the ultimate. He finds the in-hand, doing a lot of damage, uses the third ability, but a nice little juke from fineokay. His ultimate is not available, but Uzzy doesn't want to give this up.
Bad news is, though, Homiefe just turned up at the same time as stealth, so they knew that was going on. The oracles on the left, though, will go the way of Noble as well, so they're still winning these mid-lane objectives.
These little neutral camps have just been favoring Noble the whole time around, and it's interesting to see that there are different style of changes between game number 1 and game number 2. They were kind of a little hesitant, I would say, to try to go for some of these plays. Instead, was trying to focus heavily onto Vetium once Chapo was playing the Thor, but now Chapo on the receiving end of a bad I'm a monster.
Oh, he did get on the receiving end of that. I'm a monster from andinster was perfect there. However, there's still more pressure onto andinster in the mid lane here. The Waxing Moon's already been used by stealth. Great poke pressure to force andinster out. Homiefe's contesting against Wubbn. fineokay on the way. Uzzy and Wubbn, bit of an awkward situation to be in, but they've got stealth coming round. And with andinster being so low from the damage from stealth, SoaR can't continue to pressure.
Vetium is around the corner as well in case things got really heated in that scenario, but with Wowy trying to make the rotation back into the lane, has to make sure he doesn't fall too far behind to this Cupid. Still struggling in the experience department, 2 levels behind his opposition, and there's a lot of damage in the form of Wowy's Cupid. Now, Transcendence has been finished, almost fully stacked, having the Ikaval as well. Neither hunter really electing to go for any sort of lifesteal, but on the form of Noble, they don't really need it because of all their sustain, whereas SoaR, their only sustain is going to be on Guan, which is all fine and dandy, but it's just going to get outweighed considering the fact that the anti-heals from Noble between the Serqet and the Chang'e.
Obviously, with Cupid as well, you have Share the Love, those hearts that can self-heal you. You don't consume your stacks nowadays either on it, so it does give you a bigger heal. You've got fully stacks, and it allows you just to sustain a little bit more without having to invest in something like Devourer's Gauntlet or an Assy just to keep yourself going. We even saw some Bloodforge just recently as well, Tully.
That's also going to provide a lot of physical power towards that late-game status, though. A great pressure from Homiefe onto Wowy, but a nice little juke around, and the dash was very successful. Sometimes you want to blink in and maybe catch the dash with your ultimate, but great patience from Wowy not utilizing it until he knew he was in complete safety.
Yeah, he used the beads and then walked towards the Cabrakan to reposition himself and allow him just to disengage. And now, with that being down, that blink on the side of Homiefe, you can see Noble starting to pressure the dual lane themselves.
And the thing about the beads that needs to be used there is the Tremors is going to make it so difficult to be able to walk on either side of the Cabrakan ultimate. So that beads was absolutely necessary by Wowy. SoaR could look to take advantage advantage of this by doing it again because of the shorter cooldown in terms of the relic department. But Noble, they're going to look to start up this Gulf here, so that won't give SoaR the opportunity to take advantage of that timer differential.
Well, with both teams watching around at the moment, it's going to be a bit of a standoff for now. Gulf Fury's now pulled by Noble, Uzzy on zone duty. It's Wubbn doing this with Wowy on their own at the moment because round the back as fineokay has managed to flank. Uzzy's forced to engage on the front side here to apply a bit of pressure, eats a bit of poke in response, but SoaR looking to commit a little bit more.
Could look to rely on some of the sustain from the hearts as well as stealth, but everyone from Noble is a little bit out of position. We see Chapo waiting in the darkness in mid lane. Stealth is around the mid harpies. 3 people from Noble starting up this Gulf here. It's only Jigz really in contention for that objective.
But SoaR in a bit of a better position now. fineokay is flanking around the left-hand side if required to come through with that cavalry charge. Both teams staring each other over the horizon, going, who's going to be the first to blink and make the mistake that could cost him the fight?
30 seconds left available for Homiefe's blink. Could look to dive that backline onto the Cupid, but instead it's going to be fineokay on the horse.
He gets onto Uzzy. I'm a monster, though. Hits onto Wubbn. Wubbn forced to ult himself, but he's still standing for the time being. Vetium snipes. Did some work, but there's the fields of love from Wowy. Boom goes the dynamite, but boom goes Chapo's life. Jigz on the front line now going to disengage after picking up Chapo, and he's forcing Noble back to safety. The sustain is good from them, but they've got to be careful because SoaR are very, very well positioned here.
They still have the sustain goal. If you're being started by SoaR, it's at half health. Currently, Jigz going back into the normal form. Wubbn finding the root. In comes Uzzy, the steal not on the mark. SoaR get away with this one, but question is, can they run away?
Well, do they want to run away is the question. Now, there's only 4 members left of Noble there, but Noble have a lot of sustain in their kit. Only the Pestilence and Divine Ruin so far on the side of SoaR to answer that one back of the amount of healing. You can see 4 players there with healing in their kit. I know I'm saying Khepri's got healing, but he's got a meditation. That counts for something.
Yeah, it definitely has to count for something. That's over 10,000 healing at the 17-minute mark.
Double. And he's in a lot of trouble here, and he's been annihilated by Wowy and the boys of Noble. Homiefe tried to create his own and find a stun, but it wasn't enough damage, and now Noble, they're the ones with a power play because Chapo is back.
SoaR didn't have the vision around the little objective here, just now placing that Sentry Ward, not able to really contest this when they have a 5-on-4. Chapo still waiting, trying to find anybody. Could look for Jigz here.
He could go for Jigz. The hammer over the wall will give the portal to Noble, and Jigz is in a lot of trouble now. Hit by the Fields of Love 2. That was 2 ultimates invested for the support player, but that support being down means it's more of a power play. 2 members on SoaR is not here to defend the tier 1.
Yet again, Noble respond in kind. They lost the Gulf here. They find a different form of objective in the terms of the Portal Demon getting 750 gold and maybe 500 in tier 1 mid.
Wubbn took more damage than he wanted to. He's been forced to ult, and if he actually respawns, Homiefe was waiting with the walls, but Wubbn's still alive. Vetium didn't invest the last shot because he thought Wubbn was dead, and in the end, he'll escape. And on the right-hand side, this is allowing all this time for Uzzy to take that tier 1 tower.
And because of how long Vetium was in the sky, the minions actually took out that tier 1 mid tower. He could have looked to cancel the ult once the revive of Khepri happened. He could have cleared out the mid wave, and that would have denied at least 500 gold into Noble's pockets.
And now it's going to be a bit of an opportunity for Noble. Now you can see how this graph has gradually gone towards Noble. SoaR did pretty well for themselves at the last Gold Fury, but since then, different story. Noble have just managed to answer that back and more.
They just stabilized it completely. Any sort of advantage that SoaR got on the left, Noble respond just in kind on the right. And this is when the team fights are going to start happening. With all these objectives off the map, especially the tier 1 in mid and tier 1 in solo, the positional battle for Fire Giant around with Sentry Wards is going to be the key determining factor to find these picks. And Noble, with Chapo playing the Serqet, really wants to be able to control any little corridor that they can to allow the denial of the vision from SoaR to make sure they don't know where Chapo is.
Well, so far in this game, SoaR, the only one that's really stood out for me has been andinster in this second game so far on the Scylla. Made some big-time ultimates, some good plays from him. The rest of the team having a bit of struggles here. Vetium's been quite quiet overall, but he has been involved where he can be.
He's trying to make these plays, but because of the 1v2 disadvantage to start off the game, he lost to purple and red continuously. Yeah. This gave Wowy the advantage that he really needs to. Even the one little small rotation into the mid lane, trying to find the kills with the snipes, didn't really favor Vetium there, and he lost a wave on the left-hand side, which extends the advantage to Wowy. So it's still a quiet game, but yet again, Vetium's still level 15. Once he gets to level 20, that's when Rama really starts doing the damage.
That's true, but the jungler on Noble is also level 15, Chapo, and he's just come back from base now. Has an item power spike with a full Deathbringer completed as well. If he hits hits a crit totally on that Deathbane, it's going to spell lights out for one member of SoaR.
There's usually a different style between a lot of players playing the Serqet. It's going for the guaranteed damage with a lot of penetration between Brawler's Beatstick, the Crusher, you know, even the Jotun's Wrath, versus going for relying on the crit with the Deathbringer with even more crit modifier items just to dive a squishy backliner.
And now with the amount of wards on the map, you don't see that many sentries these days with these new Oracle wards being available. But the problem with that is you stand on wards a long period of time and not even realize it. And that's exactly what Chapo and Stealth just did in the jungle, looking to bait a fight around this red buff.
Look how far Uzzy is. He was proxying between that tier 2 and the Phoenix. So now the rotation from Homiefe and andinster on the right-hand side, trying to look for a play. They're going to get caught under the tier 2 tower, forced to use the Terra's Blessing just to disengage.
But they're keeping 2 to 3 busy, because you can even see andinster's on this right-hand side, which is allowing Noble to get a tier 1 tower on the left for free. They're trying to split the map up a little bit, using how tanky and survivable Uzzy is with this mobility to continue to be chased by 2 members of SoaR. And Noble, they're not sure what they want to do in response.
fineokay trying to make sure they lock down Uzzy. They don't want to let this one go, but there is no blink on the side of Homiefe to really capitalize on it. Having no minions here as well, not going to be able to push down this tier 2 tower. Goal Fury respawning in 20 seconds. The whole time, Noble was just able to slowly take advantage of that 2-on-1 on the right by getting a tier 1 on the left.
Could have been more awkward there for Noble or SoaR in that situation. If Uzzy would have died earlier, Noble could have got collapsed on the left-hand side. If Noble would have realized how many members of SoaR were out of position at that tier 2 tower, they could have died that with 4 members against 2 and probably found a couple of kills for themselves as well as that tower.
More than likely. And Uzzy's death, had he died there, the timing of it would have been really unfortunate for Noble with this Goal Fury just respawning. This is the point in time at the 22-minute mark where these respawn timers are going to get longer and longer, and especially a level 17 Terra not in a team fight, not having the ultimate, not having the roots or the stuns or the heals from the monolith. SoaR can easily take advantage of it, making it easier for andinster to find the kills.
Hey, let's be honest, Tolly, this is about the same sort of time last game where we saw Gold Fury won the game. There was one team fight, it was a Gold Fury, and the game was won. The Oracles on the left, sorry, the Harpies on the left going to go down, and now everyone returns to mid.
Noble has a collective 20,000 healing between all 4 of their members that has any sort of sustain into their kit, and only about 6.5 on the form of SoaR. That's a huge differential here, and Noble, they can really play off of that, considering the fact that they also have damage mitigation from Wubbn's Rising Dawn, the revival as well. fineokay might be in a little bit of trouble, but recognizing the threat dashes into safety.
We'll say the damage numbers look pretty similar between the 2 teams overall as well. Obviously, Stealth at the top, followed closely by Vetium and then Chapo, and then 2 members of SoaR will even things out. Gold Fury has been pulled by Noble. Jigz is on the forefront of this fight, but round the back is Chapo, and I don't think they've noticed him yet, but he can't find the kiss. Now they'll turn on him. He's forced to ult. Waxing Moon as well. He's going to get Chapo away from the danger thanks to Stealth's ult. Jigz in a bit of trouble here, but Andy's looking for the Ammo Monster.
On the back line, doing a great job is Homiefe diving Chapo. Even finding one snipe is Vetium. Jigz diving into the danger zone. Wubbn is going to be the second member dead on Noble. It's a 5-on-3 advantage for SoaR, just like that.
Where was Uzzy there? That was the real question. Did he teleport in a little bit later? It looks like he did. It was 3 seconds down on the teleports and the relics when you look at them. And that was a difference between Noble winning that fight, and they needed a solo later there, Tolly.
But the difference allowed the tier 2 tower for Noble to be secured. So that's a small little gold back into their side, but not to mention, it's still going to favor SoaR because they have this 5-on-3 power play for another 15 seconds. They're going to look to put pressure on this tier 1 mid tower.
And Vetium with an execution and an Iqval and the chins. He's going to make short work of these towers, and anything presented in front of him. Stealth's in trouble, who went too far forward now. He's forced to disengage, but fineokay will clean him up with the dash. Uzzy now forced back as well as Wowy, and now the march of SoaR continues.
Too aggressive is the positioning out of MLC Stealth. It was a 5-on-3. Just let the tier 1 tower go. 500 gold is not the end-all, be-all, considering it's a 24-minute mark.
They're still trying to body block some shots here is Wubbn, and they won't block the tier 2 down, and Wubbn walked too far forward, and he's off the map. Next on the list, Uzzy's going to have to run for his life, is on the backside. fineokay kept Wowy and Chapo busy. Now SoaR can look for a Phoenix.
Still a 5-on-2 power play now for SoaR. Just one by one. Noble is just winning off of the one small mistake from Chapo. He missed the poisons from the flank, which was a key factor to Noble winning that engagement. And then off of that, they guaranteed themselves the Gold Fury and a tier 1 mid tower. But honestly, Stealth's death there under the tier 1 tower was so unnecessary.
And to be fair, Wubbn as well, kind of the same. That tower's already dead. He tried to body block some shots again. get aggro, but by doing that, he set himself up as an easy pick on the front lines there. That has allowed SoaR now not only to get the whole fight, not only to get the tier 1, the tier 2, but the portal demon as well. And this has just swung the game now officially in their favor.
They were down about 3,500 to 4,000 gold, and now a huge, another 5,000 gold swing back into their favor for SoaR in the 25-minute mark. This doesn't really mean much at the end of the day, but it's just a small little factor. The only big difference here between SoaR and Noble is the fact that Noble's mid-Phoenix has fallen, so they have to sit and make sure that this fire minion wave doesn't push too far forward, at least for the timing of the revival of that mid-Phoenix out of Noble.
The good news is it is mid lane though, and it wasn't the left-hand side, which could have spelled a bit of a more of a difficult story, especially with the Pole Demon going the way of SoaR and the Fire Giant being available right now. Vetium and andinster are really stepping up this game though. They're the two carries of the team, and you're looking at the other three have gone for the tanky composition. We saw it in game 1 from SoaR, and it seems to be their preferred strategy here.
It's definitely what you want to do against such a resilient composition out of Noble, trying to get the burst damage online, having the Rod of Tahuti completed for andinster. Once he hits level 20, that I'm a Monster is going to be maxed out. It's going to have another stack of that passive, granting 40 additional magical power, which is going to synergize off the passive of that Rod of Tahuti. And then that one shot, if he can connect it off of a nice setup, andinster is just going to go off in this next team fight.
Well, this fight very important now for both teams. Fire Giant started up, still about 60% health right now. The members of SoaR still dancing around, but Uzzy and Noble both know what's going on. At the same time, SoaR just trying to bait a fight if they can.
They want to hold off a little bit because the fire minions in the mid lane. Stealth had to respond just to be able to clear that one out, and the rest of SoaR are going to disengage. They're trying to wrap onto the backhand side.
Wubbn being aggressed on Chapo, went for a pick, and instead he's going to get two of his teammates in an awkward position. I'm a Monster from andinster was good, but not good enough to pick up a kill, yet the crush was better. Chapo still alive and going to look to the backside as the snipes from Vetium rain down on Wubbn. One member dead of Noble, 5 members all nice and healthy thanks to the meditation out of SoaR, and it's Uzzy next on the list. Uzzy falls down to Vetium too. Chapo jumps to the back looking for andinster, but Vetium will pick up a 3rd kill. Now they're going to push back the last 2 members of Noble back to the tier 2, but I don't think Homie's done just yet.
No, not just yet. Blinking into the tier 2 tower. andinster to follow up. The crush is good. Using the Aegis just to buy himself a little bit of time. MLC Stealth is the last remaining member, but SoaR don't care. That's going to be a deicide. The mid Phoenix is exposed, and this is going to be a 2-0 for SoaR Gaming.
Well, SoaR versus Noble was a back and forth encounter. For me, Noble for the most part, they looked good at the start, totally, but as the game wore on and on, they couldn't find anything to close it out, and they kept giving windows for SoaR to get back into it.
Small mechanical mistakes and decisions could have been a little bit better. That last encounter also, Wubbn's ultimate was still available. He thought that he could survive the snipes coming out of Vetium and didn't elect to use the ultimate onto himself. And without that ultimate reviving him, it was very easy pickings for andinster just to continue raining the roots and the crushes.
Well, that puts SoaR at 10 points right now. It leaves Noble where they were originally, which I believe was 5 points, correct? So we'll see how the standings end up mixing things up there overall. But it was a good set to see how much SoaR has kind of moved on now, Tolly, from the beginning of the split.
Absolutely. As the split moved on forward, SoaR have just been getting more and more comfortable, especially with their new soul laner.
Well, it's tight over in North America. There's a little bit of dip towards the end, but all the way up to the top. It's crazy. The analysts, though, are ready to break down that Noble versus SoaR set.
Thanks a lot, Hindu and Mr. Anatoly. Nice little set we had there, unless you're a Noble fan. SoaR winds up with 2 wins, and honestly, a little bit surprised. I honestly expected SoaR to maybe falter a little bit. Even if they did wind up with 2 wins, I didn't expect it to be so clean.
It was a really, I wouldn't call it one-sided, but it became one-sided ultimately by the mid to late game stages for SoaR. Unfortunately, Noble just unable to maintain the leads that they had established early on in both of those games.
Over there in game number 1, certainly was a real team effort here. Anybody really specific stick out in your mind, Taco?
Vetium and Jigz. Vetium and Jigz the entire way. Vetium because, I mean, as the Hunter player, it's always nice whenever you're able to secure kills for yourself. This is a pretty nice play by Chapo, and Vetium just absolutely punished him for it. And then on top of that, Jigz just went off on this Fafnir.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly what we have to really come to expect out of this team for SoaR. It's actually really funny, and, you know, you lose your solo laner. fineokay has been totally an all-right stand-in, but just that, a stand-in. It's not a player that's been with the team for a long time, and so you wind up in the support role. A lot of times you kind of wish that you had more control of over the event. Support players in general, Jigz specifically, tend to really view the game zoomed out. They see the whole picture. Sometimes other carries can sort of get a little bit of tunnel vision. Jigz understands it, and a character like Fafnir allows him to be more of that presence.
It was excellent for SoaR's draft overall because Vetium was a late game hunter on that Artemis, and all he wants to do is ensure that he survives throughout the team fights to deal out the DPS that's necessary for SoaR to pick up the win, and that's exactly what happened thanks to fineokay and Jigz just providing that frontline peel.
I mean, you said it wasn't a one-sided affair, but 12 out of the 14 kills belong to SoaR. I think that's...
it didn't start out super one-sided at the early standpoints. It looked really good for Noble, actually, especially after they secured that Gold Fury from the get-go, but unfortunately, like I said, just unable to really close it out.
I liked what we saw to Wowy specifically. I always like what we see at a Wowy, but unfortunately, him and his team can't find a win. And skipping a little bit ahead, actually, that means that ALG, if they lose 2, then we have a tie game. Then we have a tiebreaker situation. So ALG absolutely have to make sure that they either win or wind up splitting a little bit down the line. Game number 1 sort of set the table for game number 2, but 1 was a little bit, like you said, Jigz, and some people shared. Game 2 was basically big red letters in the marquee, welcome, andinster.
I mean, that's not a play that we're unfamiliar with in the slightest. Although he's mostly been known for his jungle role, it seems as though the mid lane has not been a foreign home to him at all. He has been an absolute dominant factor on these mid-game mages, and it's just absolutely incredible watching him come to play.
So it's actually interesting because I don't think he has been for the entirety of the season. He started off slow. We had a number of players really shift over to the mid lane, most notably Baskin, who I think has had the most successful split after the switch. Matt Yankee switched a little bit earlier last year and is still having their struggles, and is hitting his stride really recently, honestly.
Well, the large portion of that can also be attributed a little bit to the fact that his team wasn't necessarily down-packed and locked in, but now that they've had that chance to start establishing their synergy and really giving andinster more of this free reign and mobility to just get in and deal his damage, but also remain safe for the most part as well.
And one of the nice things that we get to see here is that Andy is not playing Ra. I think a lot of people at home were saying, all right, Andy, you got the Ra. We'll finally admit that. But what else can you do? And he comes through playing the Scylla, making it look like the best. Just really strong stuff coming out from veteran Andy, but rookie mid lane. Nice stuff right there for SoaR and the rest of the squad. This one, a little bit more balanced, 15-2. Noble was able to get in there a little bit more, even the damage a little bit more similar, but like we said, it all winds up going to SoaR.
It wasn't even any sort of massive goal disparity throughout that game either.
Right.
I mean, Noble, for the larger portion of that game, were actually in the lead, and SoaR was sweating a little bit up until the very final point team fights, and at that point in time, it's just really where like the crumbling of Noble started to happen, and just, again, unable to close it out, but it's still really exciting seeing this sort of performance from Noble, because I think a lot of people anticipate SoaR to be a strong team considering the players that they have available to them. But for Noble, this is more so a team that's still just trying to establish themselves.
Is that it? Is that the problem with Noble? Or is it just more, they need more hours in the oven to really get that synergy together? Or is there some other problem that's keeping them from surging forward?
I think their most diminishing factor at this point in time is just experience. They just need a little bit more experience, and so I think that this split has been excellent for them in providing that.
Do you ask for them to stay the same going into the summer, or do you want to see some roster changes?
I would preferably see them staying the same, because I think that one of the best ways to improve as a team at this stage of the game, especially considering that they're all pretty mechanically set individually, I think they just need to work together.
I agree. I think you can look at Eager over there on console making minimal changes. I think you can look at Obey, formerly Hungry for More, minimal changes, being very successful. Team Eager, minimal changes. Sometimes you need to egg size some issues, but absolutely, I think that it comes down to it, this team should stay together. Flash.